Hi, my name is Justin Pappas, and I will be talking to you about why I think the drinking age should be lowered. I'm not going to specify on whether it should be 18 or 19, but I do think it should be either or. So, just a quick history, little background on the drinking age in the United States. 100 years ago, the drinking age was varied by state. So some states were 21, some states were 18, and a lot of states actually didn't have a drinking age. So just about anyone could get alcohol, meaning teenagers, even middle schoolers, anyone could get alcohol. I don't think that is safe, although I do think older teenagers in the 18 to 19-year-old range should be allowed to get alcohol. In the 1920s, that is the first time that alcohol has really been taken away from the American people, and that is during the Prohibition of 1920, all the way that lasted 10 years till 1930. And then another big event in the history of drinking age would be on July 17th, 1984. President Ronald Reagan signed the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, which was a law that required states to raise the drinking age to 21 or face a 10% cut to their federal highway fund. So this happened because the federal government cannot regulate this. So they had to bully the states, the state government, into raising the drinking age in that specific state by cutting their federal highway fund. So each state gets a allotted amount for their highways that is given by the federal government to the state government. And the federal government was threatening to take that away if they did not change their drinking age. And this lasted not very long until all of the states agreed to raise the drinking age to 21. Some science behind the change on why it became 21. Some believe that it kills brain cells in adolescents and developing brains, and that it can lead to addiction in younger developing brains as well. Because they think that as a younger brain, you are learning faster, you're developing a lot more memory capabilities than a fully developed brain. So this would make you more susceptible to addiction. And also another fact is that it is considered a dangerous activity, which I will get into later in my slide, so I won't go too deep into that right now. My last point, though, is that it can also aid in reducing curiosity and dangerous experimentation. So, especially in the teenage years, you experience a lot of curiosity and experimentation, and you want to experiment. And that is just a psychological fact that you just really want to experience life, and you start to branch out from your inner roots, from your family and friends, and you start to branch out into other things, such as alcohol. So I looked at some sources, and I found that alcohol sales are doing very well right now, especially in the pandemic. Um, and I think that the federal debt could actually be cut if we lowered the drinking age, because the drinking age right now is at 21. If we lowered it 3 years, that's 3 years of people that could be buying alcohol and drinking alcohol. And I think that this would increase the sales tremendously. I think that the 18-year-old to 21-year-old range consumes a lot of alcohol to begin with. And if you would make it legal, it would only increase. And I'll get into this later again about why I think that the 18-year-olds are ready for it and not just the 21-year-olds. So I do think that in the long run that this could really help the economy, because right now we're suffering because we are in a lot of debt right now as the United States. And I think that we could really get rid of some of that debt if we allowed a larger population to buy some of the products that could be taxed. So this is a slide that I like to add on just because this is kind of like the mindset of the teens. And I'm a teenager, I'm 19, so I understand. And teens still consume alcohol, they still get alcohol, and they do this through friends, they do this through parents, they do this through older siblings, and a lot of them do this through fake IDs. And it is actually a federal offense to have a fake ID, although the majority of college students, the majority of older teens, have a fake ID to get into bars, to buy alcohol from liquor stores, to buy alcohol from anywhere. The fake IDs are getting better and better. Some even swipe and scan just like any normal ID. So they're getting harder to tell apart, which is impressive, but also not a good thing because that just means people are getting better at breaking the law. Um, and also, in the mindset of teens, it is more risky to get alcohol as a teenager. And that kind of adds to the fun, especially at, that age where you're looking to experiment and be more curious. And that's why people do it. And people do it because it's considered cool. But I think it could really benefit them in their health in the long term because they would be able to learn to cope with it and they would be able to learn to deal with it, especially at a younger age, in time for their jobs and real lives. This would give them a chance to really experiment and to be curious about it, especially at a young age. That would get them prepared for when they have a real job and get them prepared to deal with the temptations of the outside world, especially when they have a real job. So I do think it is safer actually to make the legal drinking age 18 or 19 years old instead of 21. I saw this quote and I thought this was perfect for my presentation, so I'm going to read it to you actually. Lowering the drinking age would also reduce the number of alcohol related accidents among underage drinkers. Many underage drinkers will not seek medical attention, no matter how severe injuries may be, because they fear the legal consequences of their actions. This is why it is so dangerous. It is dangerous because underage drinkers will not call for help if their friends or if their peers are in trouble, health wise or mentally or legally. They will not call for help because they do not want to get in trouble themselves. If you call the cops to a party because your friend is passed out on the floor because he's getting alcohol poisoning, you do not get rewarded for that. You actually get frowned upon because most of the people there are illegal drinkers, which could end them up with a big fine or possibly even in jail. I also think it is very safe to have less sneaking around. If more people know where you are at any given time, it is much safer at that. You're going to tell people if it's legal. Most teens don't tell their adults, don't tell their friends, don't tell their peers, anyone where they're going when they're going to drink alcohol. And that is a very dangerous time, especially when you're going to be drinking alcohol and intoxicated. You need to have people there that will know people at home that will know where you are and are ready to come get you and are ready to help and just know what you're doing so they are aware of the situation. This would allow for more supervision, and this would also open up the topic of teenagers drinking. Right now, teenagers are doing it in private and they're doing it sneakily. They're sneaking around, which is not safe because if they are getting caught drinking at a party where they don't know anyone, they can't call for help and no one knows them to call and no one knows who to call for them. So I think it is much safer if someone who is 18 or 19 tells their friend or tells their parent that they're going to go drink alcohol and become intoxicated, because that way they have people there that are going to help them. They do not have to worry about getting lost and becoming by themselves and not knowing what to do. They will also call for help because they do not fear that they're going to get arrested or charged with any or any rules that they broke, any laws that they broke. And I also saw this fact that 72% of the world has the legal drinking age of 18 years old. The United States is among the 7% of the world that has a legal drinking age of 21. It is proven that it has worked at the legal drinking age of 18. There is 72% of the world, almost 3/4 of the world, is doing it at 18. And we're among the 7 that is doing it at 21. It is a proven fact that it works, that it is safe, and that it is a healthy and good thing to do when you are 18 years old. You do not have to be 21. Those 3 years do not make that big of an impact. And that is a statistic that I think will forever be in my mind when I think about this topic. That 3-year age gap is only a law in 7% of the world. And 72% of the world has faith, has trust, and believes that 18-year-olds are legally able to drink. So for my final thoughts, I decided I wanted to talk about how tough the generation is currently and how it would be a good generation to start the change. Because the generation right now that would be undergoing this change would be the same generation that underwent the cell phone, the smartphone, and the social media revolution, where everyone is on social media, everyone has a smartphone, everyone is always on their phone. This is something that has changed. The generation before us did not have this. They did not experience this at our age. And we have shown and proven that we are more than capable of handling this. I think that is a great benchmark for us to base our toughness on, because we are a tough generation. We have dealt with all of this. We have been through all of that, and I think that we are ready for another change. And I think that we're ready to take on that task and lead the way through that change. I think that it is also a safer to experience legally versus illegally. If you experience it legally, you're more apt to calling the police, you're more apt to calling an ambulance, you're more apt to telling people where you are. And if you experience something illegally, you think that you've gotten away with something. And that's when it leads to illegal drugs, and that's when it leads to performing illegal acts. People say that it is a dangerous activity because people who are doing it illegally to begin with. So they are getting away with something illegally. So what's the big deal if they get away with something else that is illegal? Because they have already done something that's illegal. It's not as big of a rush for them because they've already done it. This could also benefit the economy now more than ever. It could help us get out of the pandemic. It could help the economy tremendously. It could help the entire world, because the United States would get out of the pandemic and would have the money to cut some taxes, to help people out financially, and to make an impact in the world. And we're a world leader. We are one of the biggest and strongest countries in the world. And I think now more than ever, we need to stand strong. And this is just one thing that would help push us in the right direction. I also think that it would reduce heavy drinking at a young age. Most young adults who are 18 to 21 years old drink heavily because they are afraid to take alcohol back home with them or back where they are from. They don't want to take alcohol back home. They don't want to take alcohol back to their dorm. They don't want to take alcohol back to their apartment because they're afraid that they'll get caught with it. Where they are at that current moment where they are drinking that alcohol is the only place that they deem safe with that alcohol. So they decide to drink it all. And that is where people push themselves too far, and that is where you run into problems. I also think that this would keep supervision informed and notified, and that makes it a much, much safer environment. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you very much for listening.